We've got massive news coming out of the sports cards and memorabilia industry happening right now, actually. It's a new story, giant story of fraud and scams for lots of autographed memorabilia. And I'm going to talk about it because I feel like I need to address it from my perspective as well as a new collector. By now, you've probably already heard it's a new developing story in the past, 12 to 24 hours. It's still kind of developing as we speak, as I'm filming this. I'm getting updates about it, from a bunch of different sources, but mostly from other YouTubers who are talking about this, who are also collectors and people in this space, industries in companies and small stores in this space who have YouTube channels. They're all kind of starting to pick up on the fact that this massive $350 million, they're saying $350 million. Some sources are saying up to $500 million of fraud has now occurred in our collecting space. I won't bore you guys too much with like the details of the case, because if you just do a quick Google search, it's basically the only thing anyone's talking about right now. I just wanted to get a video out there as a smaller collector, someone who's just started in this space, and what my take is on it. So just to give you guys a brief overview, if you haven't heard already, they just found a post essentially admitting to about $350 million worth of fraud and autograph fake forgeries and fakes that was being peddled by one of the largest eBay sellers and one of the largest people in the industry. Somebody in the authentication industry that's well trusted had essentially broke the news on X or Twitter, saying that they just are going to continue to release information about this ongoing case, and that everyone should pay attention right now. So that's what everyone's doing. You can also find all of these names readily available if you just do a quick Google search. It's not difficult, so I won't bother naming names and stuff as this is all happening right now, because to be honest with you, I haven't dealt with any of these people, and the alleged perpetrator of this was found dead, actually, with gunshot wounds to the head. So, whether this was like, I'm about to get caught, so I'm about to take my own life, or somebody taking revenge, we won't necessarily get into, because we don't know the full details about, what has happened. But basically, this is one of the largest by scale frauds for memorabilia collecting in the history of the memorabilia industry. From early reports and from the post that was made on Facebook, it did sound originally like it was mostly only going to be touching on memorabilia items such as jerseys, signed balls, signed cleats, signed shoes, those types of things. And then as more news is being released, as more details are being released, it is also starting to sound like after in-person aftermarket autographs are definitely things that they did do a lot of forgery on, stating that they released about 70,000 different Kobe autographs after Kobe's death into the market. So, bare minimum, there's those autographs that are allegedly fake. So take that how you will. How does this affect us as collectors? Right off the bat, this is a news story that is mostly going to affect some of the larger players. We're talking about the large card shops, the large collectors, And people who have looked at collecting as an investment or a gamble that they're taking rather than, someone like myself, medium-sized to small-sized collector, or, you guys who are mostly just collecting for fun. Because we're talking about items that are priced in bare minimum the hundreds, because, what would be the purpose of forging something that costs $50 and trying to sell those items and pass them off as real, and then whether or not people are authenticating against those lower value items is also another, like, why would anyone even bother to try and get those authenticated? It costs money to do that. How it affects us, I think, is that there is a correction incoming. There's definitely a correction on the market incoming. We are in what is the last, 6 months, what looks like from a fairly new collector, one of the largest bubbles ever since COVID, at least, ever for sports cards. The prices that people are paying for autographs, the prices that people are paying for short prints and super short prints and case hits and things like that have just gone through the roof, and they haven't really calmed down. Every time you hear one of these YouTube channels that claim to be sports cards investors, they're always talking about how the market's gone up by a certain percentage every week. It hasn't ever been, the market is down for a week. So we're definitely riding a high and a bubble right now for sports card prices to begin with. Now, just to be transparent, I myself, I don't have anything like that. Like, my most expensive card is maybe $1,000, maybe. And I don't really have a stake in this game past that point, because I have used all money that I'm not going to miss if it turns out to be nothing. If the cards that I buy turn out to be worth nothing, I'm not going to necessarily miss this money. I've spent quite a bit of money on it, but it is just extra money that I had to spend on my hobby. This seems to be affecting people who are very, very deeply invested in their collections, which cool for them, that they have so much to invest with into this. But if you're spending, the cost of a down payment for a house on a piece of let's be honest, a piece of paper with some scribbling on it, whether or not that's authentic scribbling of your favorite player, like that might be, you're either taking a gigantic gamble on something that has no objective value and only has a subjective value, or you're not going to miss that money. If you're someone like Tom Brady and you spend $5,000 on a card, you're not going to miss that money. And that's kind of the angle that I wanted to tackle this topic on, is for guys like us who are just smaller collectors that don't run gigantic stores. I have an eBay storefront that, I've done maybe a couple $1,000s on, but nothing over that. I'm your common collector. I'm your everyday collector. From this angle, it really doesn't look like it will affect our collections all that much. They are saying that potentially Panini and some of Fanatics have been compromised in some way due to this, because the forgers were able to fake the authenticity items that they used to authenticate the cards, the holograms that they used to authenticate these cards. And they were just mixed in with real signatures and real autographs. But I don't, and they are also saying that it doesn't seem to affect the pack fresh autographs that you pull from packs of official Panini and official Topps cards. It doesn't seem to have affected those items. I was fortunate enough that I actually have never purchased an autograph card ever. I don't have the money to spend on another man's autograph like that. So I've never personally purchased one. I do own autograph cards, but I've gotten those in breaks that I've done on Whatnot, where they're breaking out of like sealed boxes of product, and or I've opened them myself in like retail product. I mostly open just retail product. I have done some hobby products, but the thing I wanted to talk about with this new crisis in the market is the adjustment that I think is coming for card prices, and just from the perspective of like the common collector, what this is going to do to our collections. And I don't think that it's much. I think the people that are having the biggest panic about it right now are stores that are heavily invested into the authenticity of the product with like the cards that they have bought from people or bought from each other to have in stock. But outside of that, the people who have the money to be spending on like 6-figure items, they're not personally like very concerned. I mean, obviously they want their money back, but I also don't think that they shift the market in any meaningful way for the normal collector like us. Because we don't even want to. We're not trying to get 6-figure cards. Like, it's not like, sure, if I pulled one, great, I'd sell it, right? Like at some point, every collector has that number. Like, hey, what's the cost of this card? Like, how much do I value it for my personal collection? And then how much, is it just too much over that number that I would just immediately sell it? If I ever pulled anything that was even worth 5 figures, I'd sell it. I'd sell it immediately. I don't care who it is. It could be Derrick Rose rookie card, on-card autograph, 1 of 1. It wouldn't matter to me. Like, I'm a huge Derrick Rose fan. I collect his cards like as much as I can. But is it worth, what could be a new car? Is it worth what could be a year's worth of groceries? It's never going to be worth that. So I don't think that the largest items that could be affected by this new fraud and scam really move the market all that much for people, because they're, it could be cards in tens of thousands. If we're talking about Kobe autographs, Jordan autographs, or whatever it is that these guys have practiced forging and doing. So it's not really going to move the market too much for normal collectors. If anything, it'll actually, this is connected to the next point I want to make, it'll help with the market adjustment. I think that people were on a bit of a frenzy here for a while, because a lot of younger guys or a lot of old heads started seeing money in this industry, and it got out of control. It got out of control really quickly. At what point is this hobby no longer a hobby and it's just another hustle? We saw the rise as I was getting into the hobby. Not the rise, but like I saw immediately, fairly quickly after getting into this hobby, the culture of like almost drug dealing style of like pushing these cards on people. People really actually thought that they were, Vegas with a casino on some certain like whatnot streams and like break streams. And the attitudes of people at card shows, of these younger guys that think it's cool to, be super gangster or whatever it is that they're doing at these card shows, they almost act like they're selling drugs. And you'll see them like immediately, like they have that air about them that they feel like this makes them cooler somehow. Just like the same way that young guys, young drug dealers think it makes them look cooler. They act a certain way. They act a little bit like more aggressively about it. So it got to the point where there was some money in it, and like it just got to be speculative, and people thought that they were going to make their fortunes on it. So they started spending a ton of money on it. And I think that's going to correct due to multiple factors, obviously. But at some point, it's no longer a hobby. It's just a hustle, right? Like everyone's just hustling each other for the top dollar. No one's actually collecting people they care about. It's just speculating which rookies are going to be the next big thing that people are going to want to spend thousands of dollars collecting their rookie cards, et cetera, et cetera. And that makes the hobby dead. That makes the hobby completely dead, because at some point it's just these hustlers hustling each other. And then the sports card hobby stores start acting also like hustlers, hustling one another and hustling these guys, and these guys hustling them back, et cetera, et cetera. We're seeing who can essentially convince each other of like where the dollar should be set at, you know, certain rare graded cards, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we saw this with Pokemon as well. Pokemon being a more like a kid's thing and more of a drawn cartoon thing is even more ridiculous. Like the card prices are getting to the point where, like, if you have a kid and you're a regular, you know, working Joe, you don't really have the money to go out and compete with scalpers, compete with people who are hoarding stock, et cetera, to, you know, fund your kids' hobby. Like you're at this point, you're like, get them a new computer. It's a few $1,000s one time. Have them play fucking Fortnite or something. It's not, or you give them Minecraft, right? It's no longer a hobby that's accessible to the normal person. And that's obviously been happening with sports cards as well. We see hobby boxes now, you know, bare minimum $250. And then having to import them from the States here in Canada, that makes them, you know, $450 for a $250 box. And what you're opening is maybe, you know, dollars, like tens of dollars worth of cards. You might be the lucky one to hit the lottery, but then you might as well play the lottery at that point, right? You go spend $20 playing, you know, Lotto 649, and somebody won $70 million last week on that. So it's not, it takes the joy out of the hobby already where the prices of the cards are. And I never want to cheer for people to lose their money and people to get defrauded. I think it's horrible. I think that people who are hurt like that should get compensation for their pains. Because no one should be defrauded like that, which is what makes this situation so horrible. However, when you look at what the product is, when you look at this is probably one of the least necessary products ever created. Like, it is literally just your own fandom it should be your own fandom driving whether or not you purchase into something like this. And it's not necessary. It doesn't add, like me having this autographed card in a 10 graded slab doesn't add to my life in any way. I could maybe, if I had the most expensive cards in the world, go take out an insurance policy on it, use that insurance money or like lean that against like a loan of some sort, and then use that money to go start a business or something like that, right? I could potentially do that. However, most people not doing that. The people who are doing that are not going to be affected enough financially by this, even this level of fraud. It's pocket change to them. The people who are doing this, like, it's pocket change to them. Right? To normal people, we're not out here like insuring our cards for $1 million and then taking it to the bank and saying, hey, look, I've got this item. It's insured for $1 million, like a painting. Give me a bank loan so I can start a business or like reinvest that money elsewhere. That's not what we're doing. So for normal people, all this is going to do is correct the market. And what I mean by that is people are going to start realizing very quickly that what they've purchased is a very, very objectively low in value. So setting a price, Panini, I'm looking at you, setting a price of $30,000 for a WNBA product to start is ridiculous. And even if you got that box at $3,000, it's ridiculous. And sure, there are definitely people who gamble their money. There's, just like in Vegas, people who can't afford to do it go do it, and there are people who can afford it and they go do it. But the joy of the hobby is not there, right? Like the joy of the hobby is not in those high end items. It's not in what would have affected it with this fraud. It will only correct this fraud, and this scam will really only serve to correct the market as people realize that also the items that they're purchasing for that price may not even be real. Like so many scandals already since I've started collecting just in January about how cards are not actually signed by the player that said that they signed it. I think Messi has like autographed cards that are like apparently signed by his brother or something, and they just authenticated it anyways. There's a huge scandal there that even I heard about. I don't collect soccer cards. I heard about this, right? So you're gonna have people who are gonna start to realize like, hey, like maybe I shouldn't, go around to card shows and spend like $1.5 grand on this slab PSA thing that some person at PSA has said that it's authentic, the autograph's authentic, and then just trust that because it's just some dude making a judgment. It's not like, what do? Test for DNA? Maybe on some items, but like on most of them, they're just like, they're eyeballing it as best as they can. There's not an actual way to tell whether or not somebody's forged that if they've done it correctly, right? Like it's just like oil paintings. There's not an actual way to tell if an oil painting is a forgery or the original one if the person's done a good enough job. And we've seen, in art that people have done this for hundreds of years. People have gotten away with it for hundreds of years. So you better understand that, like, with the advancement of technology now, there are auto pen things that can literally make copy pen strokes of actual autographs. It's not that difficult to do this. So how will that correct the market? People will start to realize that the thing that they're purchasing actually doesn't have that intrinsic value, and that maybe they shouldn't be paying that much for it. I think it'll lead to a correction in the market. I'm not cheering for anyone to have lost their money. I hope anyone who has gets their money back. Ideally, honestly, from PSA, from Topps, from Panini, from the guy who did the initial fraud. But if you're looking to go after somebody, go after the people who told you these things are authentic, right? Like if you're trying to get your money back, it's not by like selling off your collection to the widely unknowing like public, right? Go after the people who told you these items were authentic. Why is this so nonchalant for me? Like I said, I haven't purchased any autographs. I have autograph cards. I have autograph cards, within the few $100 to $1,000 range that I've gotten from breaks and pack fresh pulled. And I don't think that I personally would ever go up to a dealer's table, look at an autograph card, because most autograph cards, they don't actually have as much aesthetic appeal, long-term aesthetic appeal, as a lot of, especially modern ones. We're talking about modern cards with autographs that are done at signing sessions with the athlete or the celebrity. They don't have as much long-term aesthetic appeal as some of these art cards have. The images of the players are okay. Some of the ones that are like more high end, like the National Treasures product or the 1-in-1 product out of Panini, like those are nice. Like sure, they're nice looking cards and they have good feeling like card stock on them, but are they worth $1,000 just because someone at PSA said they were 10? So I personally would warn any of the collectors that are, medium-sized collectors to small collectors to just straight up stay away from autographs. Stay away from purchasing autographs. There's no need unless it's at a good enough price where you won't miss the money. Actually, in fact, stay away from the hobby if you will miss some money. Assume that any money you put into this hobby is not recoverable. Like, don't be spending, your month's paycheck on it and you can't afford rent like a lot of people in this hobby do. It's just ridiculous to begin with. So for the OGs in the space that are kind of freaking out about this a little bit, obviously for good reason, they probably have a lot of money themselves in it. And they obviously don't want to see other people get hurt. I think the take is wrong. I think the fact that this has happened goes to show that there's a more systemic problem of people's value placement in authenticators, people's value placement in whether or not Panini or whether or not they're holding Panini and Topps to a certain standard and then not buying the product if they're not hitting that standard. I think that's where the conversation should be. This guy, who did all of this fraud, apparently already dead. I mean, what more punishment could he possibly get for it, right? Like, you can take his, if they find that he did all of this, you could take his estate and go through, all of his eBay sales and refund everybody with the money. Maybe they recover enough money to do that. Who knows? But yeah, I think the conversation really should be about how the value placement for these items is a little bit out of control right now and how the market should readjust itself. And of course, I'm biased. I'm biased as a person who doesn't really have skin in the game. I'm not a huge reseller of this product. I collect for the fun of collecting. And I've been saying this since the beginning of my channel. I'm doing this for the joy of doing it. And I'm lucky enough that I get to do that. And yeah, so be careful if you are collecting. Obviously, things like this have a massive impact on whether or not, people are now trying to get rid of their fraudulent items. So be very careful if you're a collector. I'm not saying don't collect. I'm not saying, never buy people's autographs. All I'm saying is assume that the thing that you're purchasing has no actual intrinsic value. Assume the thing that you're purchasing is for yourself and for your own enjoyment, rather than trying to do this thing where you flip it for value when the value on an item like this is so deeply personal. Yeah, that's really all I had to say about it. I really don't have much more to contribute to this conversation. I'd love to know what you guys think about what's happening here. Like I said, $350 to $500 million worth of fraud, of fraudulent collectibles, maybe some sports cards. Do you guys think it'll affect the industry the way that these other commentators are talking about it? Do you think it'll, bring down the large companies because they can't guarantee these autographs anymore? Do you think it'll affect PSA? Do you think they'll have to lower their grading costs because clearly they've graded some cards and authenticated some cards and they did not know what they were doing? I mean, it should be clear to everyone. It should be so incredibly clear that they're just people. They're just people working at these offices. They don't have special tools. They're just looking at it. They're literally just looking at it. The same way that I can pick up a card and go, sure, yeah, this is a picture of some dude printed on cardboard. Yeah, totally. Says Upper Deck on it. It must be that. There's no reason for grading costs to have gone up that much. There's no reason for slabs to be, being resold for as much as they are. It's just not, it's not meant to be a growing industry. I'll be entirely honest with you. The cost of these things are not meant to be rising the way that they are, to the point where it's beyond the capacity of, kids and fans to actually enjoy. You can maybe sell more product as Topps or Panini. You can maybe sell more product at a higher value if the product is getting better. For example, Panini's new photogenic set looks amazing. I want to pay the reseller's price for them because they look incredible. And so if you increase your product value, then maybe you can sell it for more money, but it shouldn't be inflated due to, manufactured rarity, et cetera, all of these things, all of these practices that lead to fraud like this occurring and scams like this occurring. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about it. If you've watched this whole video, thank you so much. If you can leave a like on it, help spread it around. I'd love to be a part of the conversation. I love talking about sports cards. I just think they're super interesting. I think collectibles as a whole is super interesting. In fact, I'm trying to create a line of my own collectible cards at this point. Not of sports players, of the industry that I have access to, which is social media and influencers. So yeah, like the whole industry is very interesting to me. I'd love to have more conversations about it. And if you could hit that subscribe button, helps me do a lot more content where I do actually open sports cards because it's fun. So yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. I will see you next time. Peace out.